Self and taste and bread.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Stow Select Board meeting for January 23rd, 2024. First order of business is to take public comment for anything that is not on this evening's agenda. You may speak for up to 2 minutes. Please identify yourself first. And raise your hand or your virtual hand if you would like to speak.
Hi, my name's Mary Schofield. I attended the last board meeting, and the morning after the last board meeting, our basement flooded again for a second time. So we're at a position where we can't deal with any of the mold remediation that has been recommended by a laboratory to handle in our house, because I'm really not sure the next time it's gonna flood. So I'm requesting that we put it on the agenda for the next meeting. The fire department came over and pumped 70,000 gallons of water out of the fire pond and said it didn't make a dent. They told me that the culvert is blocked. In addition, the culvert on West Acton Road up the street by the farm, Sherburne Farm, I think, is also blocked, and the road had water flowing over West Acton Road, which was quite dangerous. There was a lot of people that lived along the road that were heading to Central School for basketball practice that night, and there was not even any cones to mark that there was water and it's dark. So they hit the water going 35 or 40 miles an hour. So there's two culverts along that street that's blocked. One is running water into our basement. The other is causing potential accident or danger to people who are driving. So I'm just requesting that it be put on the next agenda.
All right, thank you.
Can I say one thing?
You can, we tend to not, I mean, this is not an agenda discussion, so perhaps you could, can you hold your comment until we make our comments?
Yes, I can.
Great,
Yep.
thank you. So anyone else for public comment from? Okay, board member comments. Megan.
May I speak now? Thank you. I just want to say thank you for coming to the meeting tonight. Thank you both for coming. So the issue with, when you came to the meeting last time, the issue with us like sort of not being able to respond in that moment is a function of how we have to run these meetings by Mass General Law. So we can't talk about things that are not on the agenda. Because it hasn't been noticed publicly to people. So it's to protect us from discussing stuff, it's to protect the public from discussing stuff. I do know that in our correspondence, which is much later in the agenda, we have your correspondence and we have some other stuff in there that I had seen.
Yeah, response.
Right, some other responses and stuff. So we can discuss it later on in the meeting tonight. Just, this is as a timing thing. So I just want you to understand that like, just if we're not talking about it in this moment, that is the only time that we can like have that discussion. The other thing is, as far as putting it on the agenda the next time, we just have to figure out a way to put it on the agenda so that you can voice your concerns, that any other people who live on West Acton Road can voice their concerns. And so it's an agenda item that kind of covers all of the issues that you have brought up. And so it's not more sympathetic to you, I could not be. But in the way that this board has to run, that's kind of where we're stuck right now. And so I think, Madam Chair, we can totally have a more frank discussion about this when we hit correspondence.
Yep.
And then talk about what, maybe you can reach out to Courtney and talk about what you may want to have put on the agenda for the next meeting, if that works.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
And if you want to watch our discussion later and not have to wait,
And not have to wait.
You can-
It's up to you,
Find
it's
us.
fully up to you.
you can find us on YouTube.
No, it's okay, but thank you, I appreciate that.
Excuse me, to be clear, so we have to wait until another meeting?
So I will tell you, it's not gonna.
Because water's pouring in our house.
Right, I completely understand that. There's nothing that this board can do that's going to help that situation.
Who do we need to talk to?
So I think you talked to the highway department?
We tried that.
Okay. I'm gonna kick it back to you, Courtney.
So if you're
Because every time
willing,
it
I
rains,
would like
it's
to,
pouring in our house.
so could
They
we,
keep kicking it back.
I understand,
It's gonna rain tonight,
I understand,
so
Right.
I understand.
it costs us hundreds every time it rains. Every time. So, like, kicking it, we need to figure out how to get this solved.
And unfortunately, our process is very restricted, as
Okay,
Megan
but
was saying, so
how do we get this done?
I,
Sounds like no one knows.
I would
I'm
like
gonna
to-
let Erin.
I can take your information and I'll be sure that to pass, the assistant TA, but Denise, we can call you tomorrow and have a deeper discussion about what might be happening with your property.
What might be, what.
What is, I'm sorry, what is
We'll have to call
happening?
the fire department again probably tomorrow, and again, I know them personally now. They they have to keep coming every time, so. This tax money just, you know what I mean, going to the fire department just for our basement. So, it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us, so we need to get this resolved fast.
understood.
Plus it caused bacteria, plus we got kids in the house, plus I don't know if y'all ever had your basement, but it's a lot that goes with it after it starts raining and bad stuff happens, so we need to really fix this, like soon, please.
So the best person to meet with is the town administrator and the assistant,
Alright, so when
because
can we do that?
I would say tomorrow,
Okay,
to at least get a conversation happening, to hear what you're talking, hear the whole, everything that you have to say. I can't speak for, I'm not sure who who you are, or,
that's my wife.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So it's the same address, everything's the same, so it's not a different property, I just
No.
didn't, okay, so we're covered. Okay, yeah, I mean, I can offer that, and
Okay,
I hope that helps.
When tomorrow?
So Denise is not in this meeting right now, so she's gonna have to schedule that with the actual town administrator, who's off-site right now at another meeting.
Your info, and then I'll give it to her, and
Okay.
then we'll go from there.
thank you.
thanks, Chief.
Those were my board member comments.
Thank you.
I'm done. Victor?
I wanted to mention I had the opportunity to go last Friday to the induction of the Holocaust Memorial, the rail car, at the American Heritage Museum, which was a very moving service and also a timely event, given that this Saturday is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which we actually discussed last May with a couple of residents from Stow, and just to acknowledge that it is Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th, and I'd encourage all residents to go visit the Heritage Museum and take a look at the memorial.
Thank you. Thank you for going.
JD?
The only comment I was gonna do a follow-up from what Megan had mentioned, somewhere in the offing, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to have some form of a public hearing. Set up because of, especially for the culvert that's blocked, that's flooding across the road.
Right.
Because of the safety concern there, which then we can probably incorporate into the second culvert. And we can also look at Sudbury Road's culvert, which flooded out very nicely, thank you, in the last two storms as well. So it seems to be the 100-year storms are not 100 years anymore.
Right.
And I mean, for the process, but I think getting the input and really trying to get a handle on all the areas in town and who's really being affected by it, I think it would behoove us to definitely get a public hearing together, and getting the parties that, need to be involved all in the same room at the same time, sitting at the table.
Right.
I know, Mary, you had mentioned you have contacts, with FEMA, and that would be a very appropriate time for that information to be disseminated, because then everybody is there.
Yeah.
So I think, you know,
Sure.
we need to look at that sooner rather than later.
I know that Brian Hatch, our highway superintendent, was out on medical leave much of a week, and that really didn't help us respond to your situation.
Right.
So we will meet again in a couple of weeks and see if there's time on the agenda at that time. Erin, do you have a town administrator's report for us?
I do. Denise prepared me well, so, sorry, bear with me, I'm gonna read her report.
Absolutely.
So we've been meeting with all departments to go over their budget and capital requests. Once we have a better idea on where the two schools are, Denise will be able to start making recommendations. We received notice last night that the Randall Library received the $500,000 Green Communities grant for the decarbonization of the library as part of the overall renovation project. The grant was awarded based on factors such as energy impacts, emissions reductions, utility incentives, reasonable budget, and previous grant awards. The Division of Environmental Resources also looked favorably on projects that exhibit innovation and consistency with the Commonwealth's stated clean energy priorities. This was a very competitive grant. We'd like to thank Arnie Epstein for all his assistance with the application. The March shuttle service will begin in Stow on Monday, February 5th. Mondays will be from the Meeting House, Elizabeth Brook, and Pilot Grove Apartments to Highland Commons in Hudson. And Thursdays will be from those same apartment complexes to both the Shaw's Plaza in Stow and Maynard Crossing. There will also be a shuttle to and from the train station 5 days a week, from the former fire station on Crescent Street to the South Acton train station. And a full schedule for both will be posted on our website, social media, and on our newsletter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you know, the speaker is in front of me because I speak softly, and I
Yes.
suspect that you may need to consider projecting.
Okay, thank you.
Closed captioning was captured.
Closed captioning was
Was it
captioning, I was
captured?
watching that,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if those who are here are willing, I would like to take items slightly out of order, since we have a lot of Scout people here. I'd like to move you up on the agenda so that you can have your say and then go on about your business.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion as my child is a member of Troop One, and I am just gonna take myself out of the, out of the room. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a presentation or a, would you like to say, speak to your request?
Sure. My name is Gary Burnclough, and I, in addition to being an Assistant Scoutmaster with Troop 1 Stow, I represent the Troop Chartering Organization, Troop 1 Stow alumni. We charter 4 units in town. That would be Troop 1 Boys, Troop 1 Girls, Pack 39 Cub Scouts, and a venture crew called 1923. Older Scouts doing different things. All 4 of those groups meet at the community center regularly, and we have quite a history in town with our scouting unit. As you're probably aware, over 112 years now we've been active. We would like to request the ability to place our trailers, which are full of our equipment, on the property at Pompo. With the new carport in the back, the COA vans moved back there. And it would be wonderful to be able, during our meetings and our sessions, to be able to access our equipment. We do a lot of things kind of on the fly, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of poor planning, but that's okay. As you know, teenagers sometimes, despite our motto, are not always prepared. And having the ability to be able to access that when needed for our weekly meetings would be a tremendous help. It's quite a nuisance to have to shuttle equipment back and forth between the private residence and our weekly meetings, and we do use quite a bit of equipment. That's pretty much our request. We're here to answer any questions you may have about it. Hopefully somebody else will be speaking also.
Okay. Other people, would anybody else like to speak before we go to the board for our comments?
I have some new information that I learned that wasn't included in what I submitted. The parking spaces at Pompo that they're referring to, that they're interested in, they're the extra long design for the vans to park. And we're actually still using them, they're not available. So think about, they build a big shelter. It's like a garage, so we pull the vans out, we're using them all day. During the day, we come back in for quick breaks or coming in for lunch or things. They're not gonna go around back and park them back in the garage. Those are the spots designated for the big vans to fit in a parking space.
Got it.
So we're still using them on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
so that was the additional, I mean, I could of course repeat all the other things, but you got it in your, the reasons.
Yeah.
But that was new information. I asked the van driver, I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. So,
Comments from the board?
Madam Chair, before I make my comments, I just want to preface, I am a former scout and reached to the highest rank that was available, of which we've had a number of scouts reach here in town. With that being said, and even before I saw Denise's letter or comments, as much as I would like to be able to do this, I really feel we can't. Taking taxpayer municipal property for a private, not-for-profit purpose really opens up a serious can of worms. It's also a very slippery slope. I know for a fact the Stow Friends would love to be able to bring a pod, storage pod, and take spaces in town at the community center, which would take up even more spaces. And again, it's a not-for-profit that does serve the community as well. And I've also heard that if this were approved, we would be probably getting another request almost immediately from Warm Hearts of Stow, who would be looking for storage as well, taking up more parking spaces. I don't know how many of you have been to big events that go on at the community center. Parking tends to be a premium. It fills up very quickly. And I really feel that we need to leave those spaces available for the presentations that are presented, by the town and municipal purposes. I also, from my understanding, another possible situation that may be coming up is I know the building department is looking to possibly try to take some space to move their gas-powered tractors, et cetera, that are now stored inside Pompo to outside. So I don't know what that will entail either, but I know that is also something that they're seriously considering. So because of those concerns, it is my opinion that as much as I would like to, I don't really think we can grant the request.
Thank you.
Can I just respond a little to some of those concerns? So, a couple of things. First off, the slippery slope argument, I don't think really is an accurate one. You already have nonprofits inside the building that are not municipal organizations. Stow Food Pantry is not affiliated with the town of Stow. It's an independent organization and they have roughly 20% of the building. Right?
They pay rent.
Okay. You mentioned the Friends of the Council on Aging. They run a store. Do they pay rent?
It's actually a council on aging store.
It's not listed as a Council on Aging store. It's listed on their website as a Friends store. Friends is the
Okay,
is
well, I'll
the
correct that, cause it's a
Well-
council on aging store and the proceeds go to the Friends, because otherwise it would go to the
So it
general
is-
fund.
okay. And I'm not.
But that's inside the building, we're talking outside.
That's right.
Because actually, the inside, they actually use the space a lot for multiple organizations it's open to. It's the exterior that is town-owned property that should be used for town.
The whole building
purposes.
is town-owned property.
Correct, but the inside is designed for reserving rooms and activity rooms and reserving
For the community.
space for the community,
For the
correct?
community.
Yeah, and it's been
that's-
done.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
know. And I'm not.
But the outside isn't being rented for that. I mean, unless you guys wanna set up sections outside and rent it, that's a great idea. You just don't use parking spaces, maybe use some of the conservation land out back. And have places where you can get revenue, rent out sections. But I know a lot of people are dying to benefit. I mean, the Warm Hearts of Stow have said over and over, they distribute all of their stuff from there. And they have to keep all their stuff at the homes. Stow Garden Club, I mean, there's numerous, I'm there every day, people are asking every day for inside space, never mind outside space. Yoga people that come in say, can we store our yoga mats here?
Right.
I'm like, no.
Right.
The exercise classes have their weights, say, can we just leave them here? We come in 3 days a week. I'm like, no. If I gave everybody space that wants to use the space, we'd have no room. And I think what's happening now, the library is using a lot of the unfinished area. So then the Friends are like, oh, we collect Christmas decorations for our fundraiser, we collect things, and then their space is cramped. So they're like, we'll just get a pod and put it out in the parking lot. And I'm like, no, you won't. These parking spaces at a premium, we desperately need every space of parking. But not a bad idea. There's a lot of land out there. If the soccer field's not used anymore, pave it over and rent out.
Can't pave it, it's too close to the wetlands.
I'm just saying, you can't compare, that's apples to oranges, comparing the inside of a place that's designed to be rented and for the community to have birthday parties and different events, to the outside space. There's nothing set up there to, I mean, the board would have to create a policy and set it up, right? To design for renting space on town property outside.
We would, were we to allow this use or any other use, we would have to set up a policy.
Right.
And a rental agreement or some kind of an agreement.
And
So let me just see if other people wanna weigh in. Hector, do you have comments or opinions?
Well, I understand that the inside is meant for rental space, but I'm assuming that part of the agreement when you rent space in the community center is to also have use of the outside area. So I don't think it's necessarily an apples to oranges comparison, but I also understand that, yes, there's a lot of, parking is at a premium there, so you take out 3 or 4 parking spots, is that what?
Two.
2? That could still be an issue, but the idea of finding other places where we could rent space outside for people, you're renting the space for the scout meetings, I'm assuming.
No, we do not charge the scouts or the Cub Scouts or any of them at all. Neither do we charge rental nor custodial fees, as we do with everybody else. That is the one exception.
You're charging rent for other nonprofit organizations to use that place? You should not be, if you are.
Well, that's a policy that had been set up by the board.
For nonprofit meetings and organizations for the town of Stow,
But the Stow Food Pantry's paying rent.
but they are,
But they're a private organization.
Right.
but they're not holding meetings there, they're storing their stuff there.
I don't think this is something we can resolve right now. I hear what you need, and being able to leave them there, I know would certainly make it a lot easier for your meetings and everything. I think there may be a solution, but we're not gonna find it tonight, and I'd prefer not to have to say yay or nay on it tonight and have some more ideas brought forth about how this could be resolved. That's my input.
Ingeborg, do you have an opinion on this topic?
Hi, everybody. I'm sick, so I'm keeping myself dark, but my opinion is it sounds like it's still pretty early in the discussion, so I agree. I agree with Hector's position that perhaps more discussion should be had. And I will just say that there's no way that soccer field in the back should have been saved. And I know you may have been joking on that, but so in any event, I think it doesn't sound like it's well discussed between all the parties involved. So I would agree that perhaps we put this on hold and either more discussions be held or more thought be given to this.
Yeah, great, thank you. So I agree. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in our spaces. I know we have some of these other groups. I know we have other buildings, other town property that perhaps, so sounds like we're gonna have to have some further investigation and discussion before this can be decided. So, thank you. Thank you all for coming, and I'm sorry to give you an inconclusive
That's all right. Better than a no at this
answer.
point.
It's true.
More than- We do appreciate it. I do want to make clear, I'm not trying to pin us against the COA or.
No, it's sad
Well, hey,
because
we're all together.
we,
We're all
fully
together.
it's
support
nothing to do with the Boy
Exactly.
Scouts, it's to do with town property versus not-for-profit use on town property.
So I am a person that believes, I know that it is true that when a permit is granted or a decision is made or a request is granted, that often it's seen as a precedent. I also believe that people can say, we choose this, and we're gonna say yes to this, and we're gonna say no to all these other requests. So I don't think it has to be a precedent for all future behavior. But that being said, I still don't know if that's the
Well,
whole
we
answer
do
here.
appreciate you listening to us anyway. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you all for coming.
And we'll clear out your room now.
No, it's nice to see you.
You're welcome to stay.
I know.
I think you've been in this room enough.
Been through it many times. We changed the layout though.
Very much, yeah. How many years were you on this select board?
Only three.
Thank you all for coming out.
Good for you. A good amount.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You too.
You know, I gotta have two. Thank you.
I mean, mean, as a, thank I know. All right, I'm back. I know you were.
No, I'm thinking about how to further take things out of order or not.
Well, I think the second appointment we should do, but
Yes,
also, is
absolutely.
Frank on?
Then there's another,
No.
then there's the safety zone.
Oh, yeah. We could sign the warrant. No.
Well, let's just go away from the top of the list and see if we can check it all off. So next we have a
And that
an echo. Next we have the appointment of building commissioner for the Americans with Disabilities Act coordinator.
Yes, so if I may, Madam Chair?
Please.
So this is a formality. The title follows the building commissioner position. And so this appears now because we had not previously made the name change before.
Got it. That's great. So we can proceed to a motion and a vote unless the board has any other comments.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Building Commissioner Frank Ramsbottom as the Americans with Disability ADA Coordinator for the town of Stow.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, we've got to do a roll call actually. Ingeborg?
Aye.
Thank you. Hector?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And Megan?
Aye. I'm like, do I get to vote?
No, you don't get to.
No.
That's unanimous, thank you.
No, you recused yourself.
Alright.
The doghouse.
Now let's have the appointment, the assignment of John Fantasia.
Do I stand? I feel like official. As you know, that we've had some movement in the Stow Police Department. Senior Detective Brendan Fitzpatrick had resigned and he went to go pursue a career with the Boston Fire Department. On October 10th of this 2023, the board approved Detective Christopher Cruz to senior detective, which left a junior position that opened in the town of Stow. So Chief put out to see who had interest in the position. And what we had decided to do was develop a system where those officers could try, because I'll be honest, being a detective is, it's a lot of work. And we want people in that position who understand what it's like. And, Officer Fantasia here was very eager to jump into that role. And so there's a 3-month trial period. During each individual's trial period, they'll be assigned to the title, the pay, and the responsibilities as a detective per the CBA. After all interested employees, in this case we had two, completed their allotted 3 months, the sergeant in charge of detectives, myself, and the current senior detective would select the right person for the position. To be honest, not everybody is cut out to be a detective, and sometimes people get into that position and figure out it's not for them. So we thought this was the perfect opportunity to let someone kind of dip their feet in and get wet and see what it's all about. So for the ones who do not get the permanent position, they would be, what comes with being a detective is they're higher trained. They have a higher expertise in being a police officer, which is great for the residents of Stow. I am recommending that the board approve the assignment to John Fantasia as the junior detective. While he's only been a full-time for a very short amount of time, John has 20 years of experience of being a part-time officer. He comes with enthusiasm and willingness to learn and help those he can through advanced investigation techniques. Again, this is going to be a 3-month trial period. And we request that the approval of this assignment be for only up until May 1st, 2024.
Great, thank you. Comments, questions from the board?
Just want to make sure that the last name is Fantasia.
Fantasia, yep.
I wanna make sure I say it right.
Like the Disney movie.
I do wanna commend you on the trial period idea. I think it's very smart to do that, and so.
As someone who's been, I was a detective, the chief was a detective, sergeant was a detective, it really is, it's kind of a great thing to let everybody try it and see if they like it and, you know, go from there.
Great.
Awesome.
Anything further? I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the assignment of John Fantasia as a junior detective for the Stow Police Department through May 1st, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor, Ingeborg,
Hi.
Megan,
Aye.
Hector,
Aye.
JT?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's unanimous.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, you get the badge right.
Badge and everything.
Your record's better.
They're gonna pin the badge on him?
Thank you.
You don't pin the
Thank you for coming. All right,
Madam
Yes.
Chair, would you like to take the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee out, and I'll go after that?
if you're comfortable with that.
I'm
that'd
very
be great.
comfortable with that.
Sure.
Yes, no, their days have been longer than mine so far. Well, in the office.
Chief, would you like to talk about your request for a safety zone or, I'm sorry, it's
I'm here to
It's, the other
support him
chief.
and,
it's the other chief.
yeah, but you got both of us here, so.
Great,
Yes.
please.
I had submitted a letter to the town administrator last week to go into your packets. Since the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee has been established, we've been hearing safety concerns of Sudbury Road in the area of Pine Bluff. Approximately a year ago, we started to research a little more with a safety zone as far as state requirements. Unfortunately, the previous highway superintendent had a different outlook on the requirements. However, through further investigation, with the assistance of the chief, we are requesting that the select board support a safety zone in the area of Pine Bluff. On the map that's detailed that you have, it is 25 miles, and if you're coming from the center of town towards the Sudbury Road Bridge, it becomes 25 miles an hour all the way up to Wildwood. From there, it increases up to 35. We're requesting that the speed zone, which is state set at 20 miles an hour, extend from the 25 mile an hour zone just south of Pine Bluff for several reasons. Pine Bluff is highly used for soccer. It's used for summer activities. There's a lot of activities for the beach during the summer, so there's a lot of traffic. It's also, looking at the line of sight on visibility, there is the small dip in the roadway. So this is part of most of the reasons why we're requesting a safety zone in that area. The cost would be through the traffic advisory to put up the 20 mile an hour zones as required by the state statute. Want to add?
So I've been asked why we didn't just extend the 25 mile an hour zone. So a couple reasons. One is to switch it from 35 back to 25, we'd have to do a complete traffic study on that area. And then on top of that, we would have to get approval from DOT to make that happen. But back in 2017, the town voted that we could reduce speed limits. And we did that already, right? We went down to 25 miles an hour. But those are for thickly settled areas only. This is not a thickly settled area. So the only alternative we could come up with, while looking at within the law and the application of the law, is a safety zone. Because it's a park, it's a recreational area, there's vulnerable users of that area. So that's the way we could reduce this area here to 20 miles an hour. We've gotten numerous calls from residents about the speeders on there. We've done strict enforcement down there as well. The officers have been down there. I actually invited one of the residents who's going to be directly affected by this to here, Frank Bemis. He lives on right across from Pine Bluffs. And we've been working with him to try to come up with ways, how can we slow people down? We try to use our warning signs. We try to use other alternatives, enforcement. And we think that this is, let's slow people down. It's a long straightaway. this only extends a quarter of a mile of, or less than a quarter of a mile, what we're looking to change of that whole mile-long strip of Sudbury Road. So in the past, we've also done some pavement changes up at State Road at Sudbury Road to make sure that those, to get people coming off of State Road to slow down. So this is just another tool that we can use. And we're at the point where, since, you know, the voters voted it in 8 years ago, 7 years.
7.
I know, I'm just watching that little,
just-
there. So, so where they voted it in already, we're just using the tools that the residents gave us to use. So that's where we're at. And we're gonna definitely, on the police side of things, it wouldn't be like hey, we're gonna start hammering people with tickets and this 20-mile-an-hour zone. It's gotta be like at least 60, 90 days of, you know, education. And we've always done that. We've always done like warnings first, and, you know, we need to, you know, educate people. Now, if they're really going at a high rate of speed, where even at the 35-mile-an-hour, if you're doing 70 down South Acton, I'm sorry, not South Acton. Sorry, down Sudbury.
Wrong side of town.
Down Sudbury, then you still should get a ticket anyway. But and we did a traffic. I think that was one of the highest speeds was over 70 miles an hour down Sudbury Road. So yeah. So we put we have the traffic counter, and we had that out there one time, and yeah, that was one of the highest speeds, over 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
So we want to address that, and we would address that appropriately from the police department aspect of if we caught that individual.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I am in full support of this. I think this is long overdue. The chief has talked about one instance of 70 miles an hour out of on Pine Point, which is right there, and even from my house I can see cars, but I've also experienced, and without exaggeration, there are a great number of people that actually do 50 and 60 miles an hour on a regular basis. So I think before we have an incident and a tragedy that very seriously could take place in that area because of the usage and the vulnerability of the kids and everything else, this is a common sense enactment.
Megan.
May I have, before I speak? I have a quick question. So this is the proposed sign? Yes? Okay. I know that when I hit these safety zones, like the school zone, the blinking light is helpful too, and also that sign that says too fast. Are those, I'm just worried, well, I know that they cost money. I'm just worried, I'm wondering, as we are training people to slow down on that road, who have never slowed down on that road, if we would use some of those tools.
So let's talk about that.
Okay, great.
So we talked to the highway department. Is that thing above me?
No.
It's like, it's not good.
I'm sorry. So if we talked to, as part of the committee, is getting some signs, first of all, to educate individuals. New speed zone ahead, reduced speed ahead.
Okay.
So those are one thing. So currently, on this year's fiscal year, the police department was able to secure a traffic grant, and where we were able to purchase a sign that does speed feedback, and it's solar powered, and we can move it. What we're working on now is how do we put that up, because they don't give us a pole, and I know that's like a thing, right? But
Right.
I know it's funny. But I've been talking to the highway superintendent, and we're trying to come up with, because we want to be able to move it,
Right.
and so we're trying to come up with ideas. Do we purchase like a basketball pole, you know, that you can fill it with water, and then so we can attach it, because it's quite a large device. And the benefit of it is we can move it, around town. And the benefit of this is that myself, the fire chief, everyone on the traffic safety committee actually can look and log in and monitor what people are doing as well too, and we get instant feedback and we can present that feedback in a much more easier manner than our other traffic counter can. It's much more intuitive, it's much more user friendly, and so we're looking at doing that, and that's, you know, coming up, you know, like what do we do to actually physically put this up somewhere?
Got it.
And we're working with our highway department on that too. As far as like the blinking light around it and everything, I can tell you it is a cost, like,
Yeah.
so, the permanent signs are what, those are like 14,
14 and 16.
yeah, 16,000 for the permanent ones.
Okay.
The one that I got through the grant was just under 5,000.
Okay.
The sign at Hudson Road, the stop sign with the blinking around,
Mm-hmm.
that's $1,500.
Okay.
So I understand, we just have to make it work without compromising the budget with the town and looking at what's good for the taxpayer too.
Right.
We did come up with some alternatives for, like, if you look at the Treaty Elm for around that corner there.
Yes.
We were, and actually on at the Hudson Road too. We were able to get a really small blinking yellow solar light, and we can, you know, we can look at that too. So there's these things that we are looking at.
Right.
On top of that too.
Okay. I'm wondering about like when it actually gets implemented, like how we're going, I mean, without putting a patrol car there.
Right. And that's a reality too, is, you know, yes,
That's a
it's
way to
gonna,
educate, you know.
True.
oh, absolutely, it's a
I
reality,
pay
it's a sign.
attention if I get stopped.
I imagine this is very similar to the stop sign at Gardner Road where we had to inform the public of it.
Right.
The sign that's proposed here is from the state.
Yeah.
Got it.
But there's other education that the chief mentioned, you know, reduce speed limits, so on and so forth.
Okay.
We have looked at other alternatives on Sudbury Road, such as the feedback signs, however, they're solar powered. And
Got
the
it.
locations
The
on Sudbury Road.
location's not great. Right.
There's a lot of trees.
Okay.
But there are avenues that we can look at and be cost effective.
Yeah, and as the chief said, like, the signs that we put up are regulated. Next, these are not advisory signs that we're putting up, these are regulatory signs, so we have to
Right.
follow the actual code,
Okay.
the CMRs, because to make them enforceable.
That makes sense. Thank you.
That's great. Other comments?
I'd like to hear from the resident.
My name is Frank Bemis, live on Sudbury Road, right across from Pine Bluff. We've been there about 7 years now. The traffic, the speed has definitely increased every year. You know, people routinely drive 50 miles an hour by my house. I did 9 years as a military police officer, and it's blatantly obvious. We've had 3 people go through my daughter's bus stop. She's a 4th grader at Center, including a dump truck with flashing signs. The police department caught them and gave them a ticket. We've had a huge increase in the last year or so with the development down at the State Road of commercial vehicle dump trucks, speeding down the road multiple times a day. You know, I have a lot of elderly neighbors over there. A lot of them they're not very comfortable walking across the road. There's a lot of kids in the area riding bikes. It's obviously a very busy area.
Yeah.
You know, being right across from the entrance of Pine Bluff, we're privy to a lot of stuff there. Near misses of people pulling in and out of soccer. You know, I mean, people roll down that road, especially from State Road side. And like you said, 50, 60 miles an hour is a routine thing over there. And, you know, I've complained to the police and whatnot, and they've been outstanding as far as their approach to this, but they can't be everywhere. And, you know, personally, I'm surprised that we haven't had some kind of a tragedy over there. You know, I mean, when you're heading towards Honey Pot and you go through the S curves over there, I mean, people go by through that curve 30, 40 miles an hour, you know? So but in my personal opinion, it's kind of a miracle that we haven't had something here already. And anything that we can do to slow traffic down in that area would be helpful. You know, flashing signs are a great idea, anything that's an attention getter. But, you know, starting with a sign, you know, at the very least, most people respect signs, or at least you should. Especially when it says 20 miles an hour and you're doing 40, 45 miles an hour. And if you don't, well, that's up to you, you know? So But you know, personally, it's a quality of life issue, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
when you have small kids and you live across the street from a park, you wanna be able to say, go to the park. You know, you don't wanna have to worry, you know, I mean, you can't alleviate everything, but, you know, slowing people down to a respectable speed limit in, you know, playground area, you know, is not a bad thing, you know, so I'm in full support of this. It's way overdue, and I'm sure the chief would appreciate not having to answer my phone calls. So, that's my position on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your service, number one. Quick question that I didn't quite understand, not that it matters much, but why can we implement the safety zone without DOT review?
Because we adopted the law back, it's the same law that allows us to lower the speed limit to 25 in thickly settled areas. It falls under the same statute, so it allows us to establish safety areas as long as it meets certain criteria, and this area actually does because of the park. So that's why it allows us to do that without their approval, which actually is specified.
Okay.
Yeah, the sightlines coming out of the park are terrible.
It's awful.
In one direction.
Yeah,
It's awful. You know, I'm in full support of this as well, so. Ingeborg, do you have anything to add?
No, I think it's been a good discussion.
Thank you.
I did, are you amending the traffic rules and orders?
Are we amending them? Is it a traffic rule and order?
I don't know. I'm asking, I figured you might know better than I would.
We didn't do that part of it.
Okay.
If we do, we'll let you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, it might require their,
We didn't amend it for the 25 mile.
Yeah, we didn't amend it for the 25 mile an hour.
we did?
No.
Oh, maybe we better check it.
Is this something we need to worry about?
No, I just think we'll just double check,
Yeah.
To make sure.
Revisit, we'll come back.
dot i's, cross t's.
Because I don't think we have it posted on every road in the traffic rules and orders on what the speed limit is in every road, do we?
Well, there is a place that gives you all that.
All of it?
There's 2 sections to that traffic rules and orders.
Well, if we have to come back, then we will come back.
Well, we could
We can
give
still
our
vote this
approval
and,
Yeah, we'll
to
just vote
this and,
yeah.
So I'm ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the request by the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, to install a safety zone on Sudbury Road in accord with the plan presented at this meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ingeborg?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Hector?
Aye.
JT?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's unanimous. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
for
you.
for all your careful presentation, that was great.
I always thought of that just now as you guys were talking. But
Thanks, Mike. Look at this wasp, that's what I was gonna say.
oh, that wasp likes you.
Hanging out,
You,
sitting on your shirt?
checking me out.
Oh, yeah. You're patient.
I don't wanna get stung.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna ask you for a motion for a little while. Okay, we have the donation of well, shall we take care of Linda as long as we're jumping around?
Sure.
Sure you. Let me,
Election matters.
yes, so I just wanted to come in and give you some updates on the election stuff. You all should have received your little vote by mail cards. We are getting them back in quite a few numbers. And we don't have the ballots yet, so they're not gonna be sent out for probably I don't expect it for another week or 10 days at least. So, but on our town website, on the clerk's page, or the town meeting and election information, we have a lot of information about how to vote And we're doing in-person early voting as well as vote by mail. And in the past, I know I've come to you and asked for information for you to vote early voting hours, and that's not required because it's mandatory with state elections. And I thought I had my little list here. But we're doing in-person early voting for the presidential primary beginning on Saturday, February 24th, 9 to 5, and then Monday through Wednesday, the 26th through the 28th, 8:30 to 4, and Thursday, 8:30 to 7, and then Friday, March 1st, 8:30 to 12, because the building closes at noon. And we'll be doing it in the Whitney Room, which we did. We used the Whitney Room for several state elections, I think starting in 2012, when we first started doing in person. And then in 2020, we actually moved downstairs because COA had moved out. So that opened up the downstairs, but now the library's there, so we're back to the Whitney Room, at least for the March primary. We may need to change for November, we'll see how it goes. But so the last day to register to vote for the primary or change your party, and we are getting a lot of people changing parties, from usually from Democrat to unenrolled, because many want to vote in the Republican primary. And unenrolled voters can vote in Massachusetts. We're an open primary, so you don't have to belong to the political party, where in some states you do have to. They only allow you to vote if you belong to that political party. So, but there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of information on our website. We have absentee balloting, we have the vote by mail, we have in-person early voting. So there's a lot there. And then, of course, you can come on election day. And for March 5th, my understanding is the center school is closed. There's no schools, nothing else going on. We have not yet heard from the school about September 3rd state primary. We just learned about it not a month or 6 weeks ago when they signed and set the date, and the 3 clerks in the district notified the school committee superintendent and let them know that the primary's that day, and Bolton uses the high school and Stow uses the center school. So I'm hoping that they will take up that cause and decide to take the day after Labor Day off again. We did it in 2022. I'm hoping they will do it again in 2024. Then in November 5th, there's going to be no students in the schools, but parent-teacher conferences are scheduled. And they did that in 2022, and that was a lower turnout than what I'm expecting in 2024. And so I have expressed my concern with the superintendent and the school committee, and need to, the superintendent had said that maybe we can figure out how some things work. I'm not sure I agree with his idea of maybe asking the staff to park elsewhere, because there's 60 staff in the building when they have parent-teacher conferences, and there's 100 parking spaces. And it was a mess in 2022. Cars were parking in different areas. They were parking in the main entryway. They were parking on the grass up in that little driveway that goes up to the back door. So it was, in my opinion, it was a mess. And it's not helpful when voters have to drive around looking for a parking space. Some will leave. I will also point out at this point, I get the question many times, why aren't we using the community center for voting? There's not enough parking there for a November election for 2 precincts. I could hold 1 precinct there easily, but I'd have to have a precinct somewhere else, and that would be the school. The town building is not suitable. None of the other buildings that we have in town are suitable except for the schools. And ideally, it's better to not be hopping around. You have to notify the voters every time we start hopping around. And I like everybody in one place, in the sense of people come in, they don't know which precinct's in, and all they have to do is move over a line.
Right.
They don't have to get in their car and leave. My goal, all of you have been to elections. And our goal is that we move very quickly and try not to have lines. And we increase our voter election workers to take that in. There have been times when it's been horrible. But that was when we had a dual election, a state election and a town election. That was called 2018. And the last ballot that we put in, because there was vote by mail or early voting and things, the last ballot went into the ballot box at 1:00 in the morning on the next day.
Oh, I worked though.
Yes,
I volunteered at that
you
election.
did.
That was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
Never make that
So,
mistake again.
yeah, so we're not gonna talk about any more of town elections on the same day as the state election. I'll be retired before you do the next one. But my idea is, people get in really fast, you park your car, you're in, you walk in. It's the longest walk to get into the building and get your ballot and you're in and out. And I like 10 to 15 minutes, 20 at the most, depending on if you have to read a long ballot with multiple questions. And it looks like this ballot in November could have up to 9 questions.
Really?
If they all pass. They've turned them into the secretary's office. So the next phase for the questions, the legislature, I believe, has until May to decide to act upon these questions. If they do not act upon these questions and make them law, then the groups can go out and they gather another 10,000 signatures that we will certify. And if they get everything in, they will get onto the ballot. There are 2 or 3 that are similar, and the groups may decide they'll combine them or drop one or something and go with, you might not see 2 that are for Uber and, that pay for Uber drivers. Anyway, I digress a little bit. So I do hope the select board sets the dates of the town meeting and the times, and you also thinking about the locations, and I recommend this school. It's the best location for us, especially the center school, and without the children in there, and without parent-teacher conferences. So I am going to reach out to the superintendent to see if we can, and the school committee, and see if they will reconsider. I don't know if they will or not, but I would maybe at some point that if I don't get success, I hope I have your backing, and that maybe even the superintendent be invited to this board and tell us why, they
Must have it on.
I've been doing this job since 2000, so going on 24 years this July. The first couple of state elections, we were at Center School, and then they moved us to Hale School. And then they didn't want us in Hale School, they moved us back here, and then we were bouncing back and forth between the gym, and town elections would be in the music rooms. Well, that got to be annoying in the sense that it disrupted the kids in the music classes. So a few years ago, I offered the situation of let's have our town election on Saturday. Then you don't have to worry about the schools, we're not displacing them. Yes, my staff and my election workers are giving up a Saturday in May, but I thought that was a great compromise. Because I know it affects the kids. I know that there are issues of being in school and being consistent, but I also understand the safety of the schools, and I want to have good elections. So anyway, so that's where I am. I've feel like every time I go to the superintendents, they don't particularly like, that I'm advocating. They think maybe it's making it easy for me, and I'm advocating for 5,400 voters. So that's what I think about, because I hear the complaints, I see the issues. They don't come, I go, all right, go talk to the select board, or go talk to the superintendent, go talk to somebody else. But I'll be the little yipping at the ankle saying, let's do what's right. I mean, we only use the schools for a few times that the whole town is able to participate, town meeting and elections, and sometimes 4 elections. So It's a small amount. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that for elections. And like I said, a lot of information on the town website, so people go in and look. There's ways to track your ballot if you've asked for a vote by mail ballot. It's on the site. We put links everywhere. We're gonna have sample copies of the ballot, so you will see. So this March primary, we're doing presidential candidates, state committee man, state committee woman, and town committees. Republican town committee and Democratic town committee. And so that's segues into the next piece of to vote the ballot and sign the ballot, the warrant. And we will post them, the constable will post them. And I will point out that under general bylaw, we have to post it at the town building and 7 other places. One of our places is Randall Library. Now that they're not using that, we still are gonna post downstairs, cause it just says 7 places. So it's town building, post office, fire station, better than I know. Police station, and then we go to the different quadrants in town. There used to be the Gleasondale post office and the general store in Gleasondale, but then that closed, so that we missed that quadrant. But Warren Insurance Agency, Buscemi's Liquors, Hudson Road Auto is in the southeast, and then it gets kind of congested with the Stow Post Office and the others. Community Center, I do leave warrants, ballot samples, other information at this community center. Allison is gracious enough to set up the table and put stuff out there so they see these things. It's just not one of the official posting locations. So I think that is, Denise didn't think we needed a vote on actual where the locations are. We just picked out those places. So I think that's all the trivia and important information that I can provide for you at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any questions? Well, it's I think of elections as the most important thing that my office does. It's the most time consuming, but it's the most important, and I want people to feel confident in our election and our election workers, and that every ballot is counted, and that we make sure that every person who is eligible to vote should vote. So the ballots, like I said, will go out in a couple of weeks, and people can mail them back or drop them off. And the blue box that's out front, we will have that working. Right now it's closed, so people aren't dropping stuff in there just randomly, but it's for ballots. So, any other questions or anything from you guys?
No.
Oh, come on.
Well,
thank
I do have
you.
one quick question.
Sure.
What's the September election?
So it's the September 3rd, the day after Labor Day.
And what is it?
It's the state primary, so we'll be electing state rep, like Kate Hogan's position, state senator. I can't remember what other offices are on there. There might be a Senate office on there, a federal Senate. I don't know whose term is up. Those are 6-year terms. It might be a representative. Lori Trahan is our rep. I forget.
I thought she just got elected though.
I know, yeah, well, see, so the state reps and state senators, they get elected every 2 years.
Yeah.
And I wish they would change the law and do it every 4 years. Because I really want them to come work with us on election day in the odd years to see what their rules and their laws, how they work and don't work.
Right.
Or make it harder to implement.
Well, thank
So
you.
4 million of those voter cards went out to across the state. 4 million. Every registered voter. All right, so warrants, you have the.
So do we have a warrant to vote on?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I would take a motion on that.
Madam Chair, I move that the board authorize and sign the March 5th, 2024 presidential primary warrant as presented by the town clerk on January 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? From here or in the wild land of Zoom? Nothing? We'll take a roll call vote. Ingeborg?
Aye.
Thank you. Megan?
Aye.
Hector?
Aye.
JT?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's unanimous.
Okay. They're there, do you wanna just sign them when you leave? You don't have, I know you're moving on for business,
Is that
so-
all right?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you need them now? Cause we
No.
can just do it.
We can do them while we're talking.
You wanna do it when
Sure.
you're talking?
Why not?
I'm asking for 2 of them, only just in case one goes through the copier and gets chewed up. That's why I asked for 2.
Let's see.
So I'll let you know what the, what I work out with the superintendent, keep you posted, and I may need your.
Some backup, yeah.
Yep.
Happy to do that.
There we are.
I'm remembering when COVID was
In
young,
2020.
there was a sign in Maynard for a while that said, "Stay very far apart." And kind of feel that way right now.
Yeah, you're missing Ingeborg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The majority of the board.
yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Yeah, so for the March primary, I have no idea what my turnout's gonna be. November, I'm expecting 85 to 86% turnout, if not more.
Really?
That's what it was in 2020.
Great.
Yeah, it is great. I think it's wonderful. I'd like to get 90 and I try to beat Bolton and Lancaster.
Wish we could have that all over the country.
Pardon?
Wish we could have that kind of turnout all over the country.
All over the country, yeah. And for every election, I wish I could get that many at town elections.
Yeah. Meeting.
Town meeting, yes,
Is it just a majority, you mean?
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Linda.
Yes.
We got a couple.
Thank you, yeah.
Actually, you have a super majority with 4.
Pardon?
You have a super majority.
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, carport.
Okay,
It's built, it's done.
It's built and it's done and they can.
It looks great.
They all fit in there.
So what are we voting for?
I know, that's what I was gonna
So,
ask too.
so we have to officially, when you get a gift,
oh,
there's actually, Erin can explain.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you, you
No.
were handling it, you had it perfectly. So, as you noted, we are asking you to formally accept something that has already been set up and installed, so thank you for bearing with us. And if I may, the structure was procured through the Friends of the Council on Aging, which we are extremely grateful for. This success is with thanks to a collaboration of a number of parties who were involved to complete the project. And it was installed and completed some site work using ARPA funds. And if I may, just read to make sure that everybody is acknowledged from Denise's memo directly. As this was a very long process, there are a lot of other folks I would like to recognize and thank. Again, this is from Denise. First, I would like to recognize Bill Byron and Charlie Aronson, who helped get this project started on behalf of the Council on Aging Board. It should come as no surprise the amount of time Bill put into this project, researching companies, taking measurements, drawing out the design, and more. I would like to thank Allison Toole and Dave Ashman from the COA for their research and guidance, Doug Hyde in the Facilities Department for picking up the design, concept work, and finally getting this built, and the Highway Department for doing a lot of the site work to prepare for the installation. And while the structure itself was purchased by the Friends, ARPA funds were used for the labor and site work to finally get this vital project completed.
Nice.
Thank you.
Do we know exactly where, well, I'm sure we do, where has this been installed?
It's around the corner.
Right around, go all the way around.
Do you know where the food
center,
pantry is?
Toward the back where the food pantry is.
So in that Little Crook?
It's
Or all the way
it's
in?
all the way back,
all the
way.
yeah.
I guess it's all the way back. As far as you can go before you
It's
get
up
to the
against the
fire
building
station.
though, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it is up against
It's
the
right up against the
building,
building.
yes.
Okay. Google Maps hasn't updated their satellite photos yet.
Well,
I know, they're slow. What do you expect from a technology company?
no comment. I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the donation of a carport from the Friends of the Council on Aging.
Second,
Roll call vote. Ingeborg,
Aye.
thank you. Megan,
aye.
Hector,
A grateful eye.
JT,
Aye.
chair votes aye. That's unanimous. Thank you for, we thank the Friends and everybody involved. That's really
Yes.
great. Alright. Now we get to the fun stuff, not. Alright, so I put this on the agenda and then I looked at the form and couldn't find some of the things that I thought were wrong with it. I just wanted to at least start a conversation of looking at the evaluation form for the town administrator's review, because that will be happening earlier than it has before, because we changed the
Oh, right.
cycle.
That's right.
So it's not imminent, but one thing that came up in that seminar, workshop, whatever it was the idea of having fewer grading options. So we have 5, I think. And I mean, the 3 that are sort of really necessary are, below average, average, and above average, so to speak. We can call them something different if we want, but I would be happy with that, and then the idea would be to elaborate in comments as necessary.
Mhm.
I think it would just sometimes, from a graphic design point of view, the more gray there is on the page, the more difficult it is to parse, so.
I think, I love that idea because I think that if you are doing below average, average, or above average, then you really need to explain that in your reasoning in the comments versus a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, where you're just like, well, I don't wanna give all 5s. It's like, if there is an average, like that below average, average, or above average attached to the section, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it'll be easier to grade because I just think that would be great, so.
Other,
I have a few questions.
Oh.
So where did we get this form that we're currently using it from?
I have
we
a
come up
feeling
with
that,
it, or-
no, I have a feeling that Denise got it from somewhere in the wide world that was, like, this is something that more than one other group uses, so,
Right, and this is an old one anyway, because there's a whole section on pandemic leadership, which we've
Which we
Which
taken
was the
off.
other question I was wondering
Yeah,
about, okay.
so I think yes, we need to take the pandemic leadership off, cause that's done.
Yeah.
I think some of where, sorry, may I speak?
let's
Still having a
have an open
conversation.
Discussion and not to step on each other.
So I think where it always gets a little dicey is when we have to talk about how she is with her staff. Because it's not necessarily things that we know. So I would be fine maybe not talking about that or not having that in there, excuse me.
would
Yeah, I
agree,
feel like
because
if we-
last year, I think I even, on my evaluation said NA,
Because
not applicable,
I will
because
say,
we don't have the exposure to see her
We don't have the exposure, and I think
Unless we
it's
set up a process where we
meet with
agree
staff.
to meet with staff, you know.
Well,
Which
that
I
was-
think that's the thing that we're trying not to do, is to meet with staff.
Actually, I would be all for being able to at least be open to staff coming to us and talking to us if they want to about Denise, or be able to go to them and say, how are things?
Yeah, and I think that it's possible to to say, like, we're doing our review during this time period, and have your office put out something to the staff to say, if there's something you would like to
Yes.
weigh in on for the select board, please send it to the office or to you directly. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Do you need a mint or some water or?
I'm just gonna keep drinking water.
I have a cough drop.
Do a cough drop. I'll take a cough drop.
Yeah, I like the idea of maybe having a comment period, so that when we do this for real, we can
Yeah.
open it up to.
Cause that's the thing that we've been missing,
Yes.
right?
Do you
And I
think it's
think
appropriate
it's
to
just,
have public comment?
no, well,
I mean, it'll be.
I don't think
it
so,
won't
because we're
have the
judging
same
her.
basis, right? I mean, they don't necessarily have the same experience.
No, and somebody could quite frankly be angry because the office didn't do something they felt like they were owed, and then
Well,
then it becomes a list of grievances. So I think, but I do think that having the staff be able to say to us, like, Denise is excelling in this area, or, you know, and they can submit it anonymously if they wanted to. Or
Or
they
have
should,
some
they should,
I
process
don't
where they
think-
could
yeah,
have
I
a
don't
sort
think
of a one-on-one or something, I don't know how we would do that.
oh, you
It's
wouldn't
not-
say
no, it'd
just.
have to be-
I wouldn't want to have a situation where we're interviewing every single one of the members
No.
of the staff. I think that we just basically could put out to the put out an email to the staff saying, the select board is currently working on their review of Denise. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Yep.
And then that gives them the opportunity to email, and then we can take a look at that as we're.
I'm not sure, quite frankly, that that's our place. I don't mind the staff input, but I'd rather it go through the HR.
No, I think.
And then HR bring to us.
Sure.
Unless there is there's a hierarchy that is being set.
Right.
And I think, I really do feel like we need to respect that. And I don't wanna undermine that at all.
No, but we're actually Denise's boss.
Right.
I'm
And
not saying that we're not, but what I'm saying is there is still a process and a hierarchy that normally is done.
Everybody else works under her, so.
because the other question is, do we have an open door policy?
We don't.
Us?
Can anybody approach us to discuss Denise?
I hope anybody can approach us to discuss anything, that's should be part of
In this
being
case, I was thinking
elected.
specifically employees, because there's the other side where we were talking about the public, but
Right.
specifically employees coming to any one of us. I've had a number of people come to me and want to talk to me about interactions they've had with Denise, good ones and bad ones. I haven't had any employees do that. In every organization I've been with, there have been these open door policies where you can go to your boss's boss or higher if you've got a complaint. It's up to them to say, you should have taken this through the HR path, or thank you for coming to us.
Yeah.
But do we have that as a policy? Do we, the select board, welcome comments and grievances directly from the staff?
Yeah, and I feel like that's a slippery slope, because that's not a day-to-day, like
Right.
we don't do the day-to-day, we do the
Right.
holistic overview of all of it. So
Well,
like
and I
if
also-
somebody had a complaint and they came right to us, that's not appropriate, they really need to go to Erin.
But I also don't know how it works with open meeting laws and everything.
Right, so may I?
I was going
I was
to,
gonna say, from an HR perspective, would you like to weigh in?
Well, it's a tough one, to be honest. I see what you're saying. I think it's something to be considered and not taken lightly. I hear what you each one have said. I do agree that, I agree, I mean, it's an interesting question. Because I also I am HR, but I work for Denise. Denise works for you. So I think it would require a little bit more thought. A policy for sure, but also some more thought. I wish I had a better answer.
No, I don't
I mean, I
think
don't
we have
think
to
we
decide
have
this
to.
No,
tonight.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't feel we need to have all the answers or any answers tonight for that matter. I think, you know, we're beginning discussions of trying to figure out how to deal with staff. I mean, it's I don't want us to go down a slippery slope and
No,
I do
and
worry
work
about that. You know, I understand, you know, Hector's point, but there's open door policies and then there's
okay, I wanna shut the door now.
When it gets to the, you know, chief executive officer, typically, he doesn't have an open door policy, you know, and we're the CEO.
I know.
So, you know, I mean, and when I say, you know, to respect our process, I do feel that there is a process for grievances, which, you know, any of us have had to deal with under different circumstances, I'm sure. But one of the main reasons we brought the position in that Erin now holds is for employees to have a place to go
True. Yep.
day to day. So, you know, and I'm extremely cognizant of that. And so I think we have to kind of respect that, although I do understand what Hector and Megan are saying. If it's the annual review, is there a mechanism that we should be putting in place? But then, you know, are we gonna get a litany of grievances from the year? You know, well, you know, she didn't do this, or I feel she should have done that, or whatever. I mean,
That's why we're not gonna do it during budget season.
God.
Well, and I also think that,
So let's give
sorry,
Ingeborg a chance.
Ingeborg, yes.
Yes.
Ingeborg, when you're.
So I think we should check with MMA and see if they have any advice on this, because it's possible that we shouldn't even be reviewing the employee interaction. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't, but depends if we're really big picture.
Yeah, that's a great
You
idea.
know, I agree with what's been said so far, that the last thing you want to encourage is grousing, because that's the kind of stuff we may get. But I think let's check with MMA and see if there's a process that will be helpful to us and get Denise's input as well.
Yeah.
And move there, because that is the hardest part for us, but I don't think we're gonna have to reinvent the wheel. I think the wheel's out there somewhere.
I just
I
wanna
agree.
thank you for participating tonight. Sounds like you're working hard. I'm sorry you are, you have a whopper of a respiratory or whatever thing going on.
I'm ready to fall asleep.
Okay, we'll try to wrap it up as soon as possible.
Thank you for saying that, and I will get better.
Yeah. Okay, other areas of this that we wanna just call out and consider for, that's kind of my two big things.
I think some of these are redundant. Decision-making, planning, leadership, supervision kind of seems a little redundant to me. All seem to play together.
Yep.
Understands role. Conduct at meetings, why, I'm not even sure why we would even, do we expect her to, are we worried about her blowing up and?
It's not mean content, it's basically staying in your lane during the meeting, right?
Yeah.
It's in theory our meeting
Right,
and she's an invited guest, but they're I'm sure there have been town administrators who run the meeting and then the board just kind of sits there, in other towns. So I think that the idea is just making sure that it's,
But I also wonder about the ethics section. I mean, if there's an ethics issue, this isn't the place to deal with it.
right, I think, I liked Ingeborg's comment about going to MMA at this point. Like, I would be fine, Madam Chair, maybe tabling it until we can get information from MMA.
Yeah, I think that would be
Seeing, just
best.
because I think like we could go through every single thing tonight, but
No, I just
I
want,
think if we're gonna
I
get-
actually kinda wanna just get this on the radar and get the
Yeah.
conversation started.
It's great.
And get us thinking about it.
but I
So,
think,
I invite you
I'm
all
not gonna
to go
speak-
through,
right.
like, I didn't actually go through the form
Right.
and say to myself, well, what's redundant and,
Right.
what I
Right.
would propose.
Right.
So I might, if we have time for that, great, ourselves before the next,
Cool.
happy to move on if, we've had enough of that.
I'm all for that.
I'm all for that.
Okay. Who wants to be the representative on the town hall building reuse committee? Don't everybody speak at once.
So my only concern is, unless Ingeborg wants to do it, is that these two are up for election
Yep.
in May.
Yep.
And so, it probably needs to be someone who is going to, I'm not volunteering myself, but it sounds like I am volunteering myself. However, I do think that JT has structural building experience and could actually be very good on that board.
Yep.
And I also have sat on that board before, and maybe we need all new people, so.
Right?
Two cents.
So Ingeborg, what is your level of interest?
Just gonna say 0.
I'd love to be on it, but I'm just so busy right now, so I would like to pass. Thank you.
That's, thank you for your gracious answer.
What she said.
Alright.
I'm with her.
So, I feel like I've spent a lot of time on advocating in various ways for the town hall, and I still feel, I'm very much in support of getting the building to the point of usefulness again. And I would love it if somebody else would step forward. I have some personal interest because I have had, a number of lovely experiences in there over the years, and it feels like a very important building to the town to me. It feels like an important landmark, but the inside has all this history in it, and it's, I mean, for goodness sake, it's the place where people gathered for everything that had to be done in when we didn't have other buildings, and I feel like that's not something I wanna see fall by the wayside or be disposed of. So, maybe, what do you feel like in light of Megan's comment? Or not in light of it?
No, I am up for reelection. It looks like there is a finite period for this.
Yeah, I think it's kinda through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Ideally.
June 30th, 2025.
Thanks for the kind words, Megan. I do have some experience with buildings and things, and with structural stuff, and also with reno and rehab and whatever on larger scales, so I guess I would probably have, at least I would hope I would have something that I could offer while sitting on the committee, so and since everybody else bowed out so graciously.
We did put our time in.
There's
I guess at this point I probably should be the one that probably steps up for it, so.
Great.
Well, don't shoot on yourself. I think that's wonderful, if you would be willing.
Okay.
I mean, part of, let's think just for a moment about our role on that committee. I mean, we have, you know, it's in a way, we're, you know, the select board and the finance committee are representing the sort of fiscal side of things, whereas at-large members will represent other points of view. And if we were to change our membership partway through the year, although there would be some discontinuity, it would also still be possible for, you know, a select board member to pick up that, you know, and sort of express that point of view, so to speak. I think also we've had situations where people were able to, I'm not planning on your not getting reelected, by the way. There's ways to, you know, perhaps continue membership in something as a member emeritus or something, so. Since I read this as at least a willingness.
Yes.
Great.
I would take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint John Toole to represent the select board on the town hall building reuse committee
Second.
before he changes his mind.
That's the fastest second of the night.
That's a quick motion too. Any further discussion whether we should or not? Hearing none. All those in favor, Ingeborg?
Aye, great choice.
Megan?
Aye, thank you, Mr. Toole.
Hector?
Aye, thank you.
I abstain.
And chair votes aye. That's unanimous and agreeable.
Great. Minutes.
Okay, minutes. Any comments
Minutes look great
on
to me.
Joyce's excellent minutes?
No, these look great.
They actually were spot on, so.
I'm so grateful for excellent minute taking. All right, I'll take a motion on that too.
I move to accept the meeting minutes of the January 9th, 2024 meeting as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor, Ingeborg?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Hector?
Aye.
JT?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that's unanimous. And last but not least, correspondence.
Yes, and Mary Clerk has been waiting
I
patiently.
know.
So.
Ingeborg's been waiting for the meeting to end. so-
Right.
All right, so. My computer keeps making me lose correspondence.
So one thing I wondered is if we could get some pictures of what's going on with those culverts. We got all these other great pictures.
We got a basic picture the last time. Ingeborg, do you have a comment?
Yes, I think the situation needs to be addressed, and there may be some misinformation about how difficult the wetlands permitting process is. But I think we need to identify the responsible board and identify the need that has to be done. I think the statement at the previous meeting about how climate is changing and the precipitation patterns are changing are accurate. And that this kind of, the undersized culvert issue is well known around New England. And I think we need to really just take this one, the bull by the horns, and figure it out. I don't think we should keep talking about it. I think we perhaps, the Conservation Commission and the DPW need to go out there together. Town administrator, perhaps, member of the board, select board, perhaps. I don't know what the constitution of that kind of a site visit is, but I think that we need to do that. And I know when our conversation last meeting was that we do have an inventory of some of our bad culverts, but we don't have budget for all of them. So I think perhaps we need to look at that budget, figure out what the priorities are, and perhaps reassess those priorities, So that's my input. I'm happy to participate in this, either as a member of Concom or Select Board. But if the roads are, and I know we had unusual storms, but the point is that we will probably continue to have unusual storms. So I think we should figure this out.
Yeah, well said. Thank you. Just go around the room. Megan?
Okay, so I did, yes, Ingeborg, I think we do need to address it for sure. As far as like fiscally, I'm wondering, and this is a Denise question for the budget, but you know, if we are not using all of our snow and ice budget this year because it's not snowing, is it possible to move some of those funds over to culvert repair? I know that, not MMA. There is a lot of discussion at the state level right now. I spoke to Kate Hogan earlier. Excuse me. Basically just to say, like, do you have any money? Or do you know of any money that we could, because if it is a budgetary thing, then I think we need to figure out can we get grants, can we do whatever? So there's not, but I do know that it is getting this entire this flooding is going on all over the state. It is really becoming a huge issue. And so I think that, you know, obviously that doesn't help in the immediate moment of someone's basement flooding in this moment. But what we can do is have the conversations about the undersized culverts, have the conversations about, you know, I'm not a DPW worker. I don't know physically how to fix any of that. I don't know what the entire inventory looks like, but I also do think that it is, you know, our responsibility to kind of make sure that we're aware of those conversations and if fiscally, if there's anything that can be done.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I got.
Hector?
So I agree with most of everything that Megan said.
Disagree with.
What I would add is, from what I understood of what Mary said when she was in here, is that part of the problem is that these culverts are blocked. So I'm looking at a short-term and a long-term solution. If the culverts are blocked, then whatever needs to be done to clean them out, that would be the short-term solution and would probably reduce the amount of flooding, if not alleviate it. If that's part of the problem. If the problem is that the culverts are too small for the amount of water that they're getting, there's definitely that's a longer term issue. But like Ingeborg said, maybe we just need to get the right people out there to take a look at these culverts. That's why I was asking if we could get some pictures of these to see, is it blocked? If it's blocked, stick a drill in there and pull the stuff out and clean them out. If it's more than that, because I also know Denise mentioned the last time that these culverts are affecting her. There's other culverts that are affecting other properties. There's other culverts in the town that are of more urgent need. So when it comes to repairing, if we get funds, we may have to divert those funds to the more urgent ones. Here we have 1 or 2 houses that are being flooded, while other places we have 10 or 20 houses that are being flooded. So I don't know what the situation is. But if it can just be a matter of clearing out these culverts, let's get it done. And
Yeah, so I've spoken to Denise about this, and my understanding at the time, this was a little while ago, was that Highway had been out, that they had cleared the culvert, and that the culvert does not, it's not adequate to the task. And it's
So
not
the
perhaps
culvert's too
even
small.
meant, it's
Okay.
not perhaps even meant to drain, so we have this extreme situation, or extraordinary at least, that it may be a design issue. And that's perhaps why the fire
longer-term issue,
department
yeah.
went out, and so, yeah, it's longer term, I mean, dealing with a culvert under the road has to be, it's gonna affect a lot of things. So it's not really straightforward. But I like the board's idea of getting representatives of all the different groups to all meet out there if possible. Ingeborg, do you have more to say?
Oh, sorry, I didn't, there it is, done.
No worries. JT?
It's a tough situation. With what Hector is saying, I think it is a two-headed monster. We've gotta do something, if we can, to try to alleviate some of what's going on there. We do need to prioritize, and sometimes, in situations, okay, you have a culvert over here that's negatively affecting 100 people, and you have a culvert over here that's negatively affecting one.
Family.
And you can only repair one.
Right.
Yeah.
Type of a situation.
Yeah.
So, but I think if we can get the folks out there and figure out something, at least in a short term, to try to help alleviate what's going on.
Yep.
Makes the most sense. And then we can begin to look at
The
the list.
Yeah.
And, and quite frankly, yeah, I would like to really see that list. I would like that in my grubby little paws so that I can look at it,
The list of which culverts are
of
failing.
the culverts, and
Yeah.
Do you have it?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yikes.
So, no,
That's a big bulldog clip.
Ms. Schofield did a public records request to ask for the inventory list, which I happened to get today. And I did just check, and she did respond that she did receive the 6 attachments. She hasn't had any time to look at it because it was right before the meeting, I'm sure. But in any event, there are pictures. The report was delivered to the town on May 2nd. So there has been some time. The
May 2nd of last year?
2023, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes. Some of the inspections happened in February, they didn't happen in May, some were in February, but the report was done in May. As Madam Chair said, the Highway Department, my information is that they did go and check the culvert after the first rainstorm and before the second, and they did see a little bit of grass, there was nothing blocking any water, but they did take what they could away from that, just to, as an abundance of caution, and just to be sure nothing was going through. Nothing was blocking anything from going through. And it appeared to be in good order. And based on the inventory at that time, the culvert itself is in good order. I'm not speaking to size, I'm not an expert by any stretch. But the inspection was found that the head wall needed maintenance, but the culvert itself was okay. That doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
That's just one, that's just a piece of the puzzle, so maybe that's not the issue, maybe it is more what you were talking about, size and whatnot, but I'm just saying what we have. And then the other challenge is that to clarify, this is not a fire pond, technically a fire pond. It is a natural pond that a previous owner offered for fire suppression purposes. The town did not build it or maintain it, and it's entirely on private property. Just to add challenge to it. Again, doesn't solve the problem. The other issue that believe I'm hopefully conveying correctly, is that there may be, so the pond is here and it got incredibly flooded with the 4 inches of rain and then 2 more inches of rain. There's ledge, I understand, behind it, and there's a lot of runoff, plus there's a catch basin, so the road water, there's a lot of water going in there. And as Ms. Schofield said, the fire department did come out and they pumped 70,000 gallons out from the pond across to try and bring that level down. The challenge may be that the brook across from the culvert is crowded with, it's overgrown. And it may need to be cleared to allow a greater
Better channel.
channel of water to get through. But those are wetlands, and
Right.
so there are many challenges to find a solution, which I know isn't needed yesterday.
Yeah.
But those, just to offer, that's what I know.
Thank you.
And I hope it's helpful.
I do like Ingeborg's suggestion about having the Concom involved because obviously they are the wetlands
Experts.
experts and I know nothing about that, but being able to have them come in and look at it and say like, is this something that, is it like, it's wetlands, we can't touch it, or it's wetlands, like, maybe we could go in and
Help it.
My
And
my
help it a
recollection
little bit.
is that there are some measures that, I believe there's maybe an emergency, permit situation for some things.
Okay.
I mean, dredging a sensitive area is not trivial, cause it
right,
it
it affects everything,
it stirs a bunch of stuff up, so.
right,
And I'm not familiar enough with that particular spot to, and I'm certainly not an expert either.
right,
But yeah, I mean, that, ultimately they would be typically involved with permitting any work
Yeah.
to do with wetlands, and so, having that meeting as soon as possible makes
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
to me.
Cause even if we're not getting much, I believe
Yep.
Ms. Schofield.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
I just want to address a few things. I did see the reports and they are from last year. So it's what, January, and it was February the last time they checked it, I believe.
I believe that is true.
Was it sooner than that?
No, I believe you're correct.
So that's a whole year. We all know anything can happen within a year. And as far as private property, it is, but that's the highway's responsibility to keep it maintained. So just want to address those two big issues.
oh, right,
Yeah,
'cause there was a gift.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we know that there'll be meetings
So I'm
starting
going to
tomorrow,
talk with
hopefully.
Denise,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
and we will certainly reach out and set up a meeting, because I think based on this conversation and I wish I could speak to say what exactly is gonna happen. I
Yeah, there's
can't.
no way.
No,
But as
but
long as we
at
can
least-
get, hopefully, the right people to look at it and,
Yeah.
cause we may not be getting much snow, but eventually we'll get the spring thaw and they'll be having more problems.
yeah, well, and it's supposed to be raining all day tomorrow. I do feel like as far as this board, we've hit the wall of things that we can do to address it, other than
Yeah.
unless you,
Yeah.
I mean, just because, and it's not like I don't wanna do this, it's just the mechanisms of this board are such that we set policy for the entire town, and so it's making sure that you all can
The right people.
the right people can help them at this point, I think is what we can do.
I think if a bunch of people are gonna go out, in the next few days, I mean, I could have some availability on Thursday perhaps.
Yeah, and I can make myself available too,
Can do.
if needed, so, I mean, just let me know, and then, if Ingeborg's ever gonna feel better. And also, if once you talk to Denise, you can maybe just somehow let us know what's, or maybe we don't need to know, because
sure
we're
she-
trusting, reaching out to the chair and let.
And, yes, so, I mean, I know this is a high priority for her. I know that the highway department I know that everybody has felt and hoped that this was, well, that they wouldn't experience this again, that hopefully that but it sounds that is not the case, so I can commit to having a conversation with Denise tomorrow and asking her to reach out, and we can have a meeting and just sort of get a conversation about what has been done, what can be done,
Yeah.
just all of that. So I wish I had the full solution, I really do, or even a half decent one, but that's the best I can do tonight.
No, this is great.
The tough thing is that the next, my understanding from looking at it and from driving up and down that road
Right,
for
every
years
day.
is that the low ground is across the street, so
Right.
it's not easy to, it's not like you can put an extra sump pump out,
And
and
pump
get it
across
away,
the street,
'cause
right,
across
it's,
the street, so.
right. Yeah.
And maybe, so you said that, I mean, Kate's got one connection to state aid.
Yeah, I mean, but I think we could also, I think candidly, when I spoke with her, like, there's not money specifically for this right now.
But highway
however,
have connections that
I
for
I
state.
think that we
something.
can always be creative and sort of say,
Yeah.
does this grant match
Yep.
this objective, or could we look in this direction? And I think, like, as far as this board goes, that's something we can do. I wanna make sure that the expectations are set that, like, unfortunately, this is the kind of wall where this board is at as far as that goes. Okay.
This is where Denise's expertise will be welcomed.
I welcome you back for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Or for tomorrow, yes.
Yes, and I apologize for not having a better.
Your expertise has
your
been-
expertise has been great.
Most excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, other,
Let's talk about Verizon. Not
Oh
just
my
yet.
god, I will.
I'm excited about the, there's a
Oh, yeah, that,
property, that's been, or is being donated to the town, which has been a long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, I knew the man that wanted fervently for this to be donated, sweet guy, and so, I think that'll, a more formal, announcement that will come later in the spring when the deed is accepted, but, to get more conservation land through donation is absolutely lovely.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm ready for one last motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
second.
All those in favor, voice vote?
Hi.
Aye.
Bye.
Any
Good night,
opposed?
everybody.
Good night, feel better.
Okay.
Feel about